Okay, so I'm going to wait a minute because I want people to be able to log on, and then I'll start talking. I just tweeted this out, and I'm looking to see if anybody looked at the tweet or did whatever people do with tweets, retweeted it, liked it, all this stuff, and then I'll go from there. Um, okay, so I'm going to wait a minute because I don't know what just happened. Okay, so it looks like 6 people are watching. Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming on. Oh, hi, Catherine. You're from the UK. That is very exciting. Thanks so much for tuning in, especially since in the UK it's 1:08 in the morning there, right? That's really cool. So let me tell you what happened today. I'll go ahead and get started. I tweeted out the link and I just wanted people to know, they could hop on and listen to what I was going to say. So I'll preface this with the fact that I am not in the courtroom every second. I mean, I am up there a lot, but I had to, do a live shot this morning at 9:15. So I wasn't in there right at 9 when everything started. Oh, hi, Amelia. Excuse me, Amelia, that's so great to see you on here because I see you on my Facebook page all the time. So good to see you. So I'm reading some of the chat comments, pardon me. So I was up there quite a bit today in the courtroom, but obviously I have to leave at some points to go do like TV live shots and stuff like that. So and I had to write a story and stuff like that. So I can't do that in the courtroom. There are some pretty strict rules that Judge Deering has implemented that weren't in place before the trial started. We used to be able to take our laptops and our cell phones in there before the trial. Now we don't get to do that. So he has issued a very strict order saying no laptops in the courtroom, no cell phones. So we have to abide by that. So we're not able to live tweet to you what's going on. And because there's no camera in the courtroom for jury selection, I certainly can't sit down, stay in the courtroom and, keep you up to date. So when we started the day today, some of the jurors were excused. I got up there around 9:30, 9:40 or so after my live shot. So a total of 10 jurors had been excused at one point. Some of them had been stricken by both the prosecution and the defense, 2 by each side early in the day. And then they went through their other strikes. And there were some interesting questions from John Patrick Parker. He is one of the defense attorneys for George Wagner IV. And I thought this was an interesting thing that he was talking about and asking about. Do you think a child's education is important in how they develop? And, the fact that kids being involved in activities that might, be important to their social emotional development. You have your kids maybe in Boy Scouts or Cub Scouts, maybe it's a girl, you have them in like daisies or brownies, something like that, or other activities, maybe it's sports. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, the Wagner kids were not involved in extracurricular activities because they were homeschooled. So I think we're getting a clue from that question by John Patrick Parker that they're basically going to say that George Wagner IV and Jake, but this is George's trial, more like George Wagner IV, wasn't exposed to those types of things. So I'm sure they've got some psychological report that came back that they've shared with the state that says, George, and I'm just, I haven't seen this information obviously, but just based on the questions they were asking, I'm thinking it's going to say that George has some mental health issues. There were questions yesterday about abuse. So I'm wondering if they're going to say that, one of the parents was abusive. There were also questions yesterday about how do you feel about people living alternate lifestyles? I thought that was an interesting question. And I'm wondering if they're talking about the fact that when when George was married to his now ex-wife, I wonder if they're going to say, oh, well, they were a married couple living with their mother and Jake and Hannah was living at the house for a little while with Jake, and Jake and Hannah were planning to get married. So I was like, are they going to say that's like an alternative lifestyle, or is there more to this? So we need to learn more about what he's talking about, alternative lifestyle. There were also questions about anime, which is like this Japanese kind of thing, I'll look up the exact definition. I know a little bit about anime, but not a lot. And they were talking about video games too, which I thought was kind of interesting. But I don't want to misstate anything, but anime is a computer generated animation. It can be hand drawn and computer generated from Japan. So I don't know if George was heavy into video games and anime, but that was a question that came up too. So I don't know what's going on. There were also questions by the defense about, do you know family members who keep secrets from other family members? So I'm really interested in what in the heck they're talking about there, the defense, what secrets was George maybe keeping from other family members, or other family members keeping from him? So then after all of this, there was talk about the homeschooling again. So George and Jake were homeschooled. So just FYI. So they really haven't had a lot of exposure, it sounds like, to people, they didn't have the experiences most kids have of going to school every day with other kids. So then Angie Canepa got up and she says, she asked the prospective jurors, sometimes do you understand that sometimes the only witness to a crime may be somebody who participated in the crime? And the jurors said, yeah, they understood that. So that's what they're going to say here. The only people who know what happened are the people who were there, because everyone else was killed. They took one of the jurors back into chambers, and there you have it. There were more questions today from the defense. The defense asked whether or not, asked the jurors whether or not, or at least one of the jurors who had some type of background in, social work or something, what she thought of illegal drug use and alcohol use or abuse, whether or not that was a big problem. And the woman said she thinks it's a severe problem in our society. So I don't know if George maybe used drugs and drank, or if this is all about maybe Billy. I don't know. I'm not aware of Angela Wagner having substance abuse issues. Then there was another woman who was in the Army a long time ago, quite a bit ago. She was only in for 2 years. So she wanted to discuss why she in the Army agreed to a mutual discharge. She wanted to discuss that in private. So this happened quite a few times where prospective jurors were like, yeah, could we they're offered the chance to discuss these items in private, so they didn't have to talk about it in front of the big group of people in the courtroom. So they would go with the court reporter, the attorneys, and the judge back into the court, or into the judge's chambers, and they would talk about it back there. So we didn't know, we don't know what happened there. And so there was another question to this prospective juror about determining credibility and how she does that. So, some of the jurors basically said that, they listen to somebody, and if their story changes, they feel like they're not credible and that they're lying, and they look at body language and things like that to determine credibility. So around 11:30 or noon, it became apparent that both sides, both the prosecution and the defense, used all of their strikes. So each side got 6 strikes that they could exercise to get rid of a juror, basically no questions asked. So it was around 11:40 or so. I'm trying to think, somewhere in there, maybe noon. I think it was like 11:30. they were both out of strikes. There's nothing more they could do. So the jury was basically determined at that point, and then they had to move on to seating the alternates, which the jury is now made up of 9 women and 3 men. So they get these alternates. After lunch, they put all these alternates in chairs, 6 chairs, sitting together. They've all been listening to this stuff for 2 days, questions about the law, beyond a reasonable doubt, what that means, the death penalty, how this is a death penalty case. So even though you know that, you may not get to that point. Like, what if George Wagner IV is acquitted? Then you don't go to the penalty phase where you determine that whether it's a life without parole or a death. So there was some talk about that. One of the alternates knew some of the witnesses. She knew the Hatfields, which that's a name out here that we hear quite a bit. She also knew Jake Wagner. Something disconnected, so sorry about that, guy. Okay, so sorry, guys. Let me continue. I'll make this quick since this keeps disconnecting. I'm on hotel Wi-Fi. So this woman was excused eventually because she knew, she also knew Frederica and Robin Wagner through her work. So she said, I'm not associated with them, but I've met them through my employment, but she didn't elaborate on what that meant. There was another woman who said she takes people at face value and listening to their stories and evaluating their credibility. And basically she just listens and goes from there. There was another alternate juror, this was pretty interesting, who had experience with the military court system. That was interesting. But she also has testified at grand jury proceedings in Pike County before because she used to work in loss prevention. So there was another question too, like John Patrick Parker asked the jurors, do you believe somebody can have an incentive to lie? And I think obviously they're suggesting that Jake and Angela maybe have some incentive to lie. Angela will get out after doing 30 years, right? If she lives that long, she could, prison's not a good place, so she could possibly pass away in prison. The food's not healthy, things like that. So the jurors understood that there could be times when people have an incentive to lie. And also John Patrick Parker explained to the jurors, the alternates, because these alternates were told, look, you're going to be alternates. You may never get to deliberate this case. You may be needed. We may lose some jurors that are in the box and you may end up in the box, but you may never end up in the box. So they have to sit there and listen to this for 6 to 8 weeks and maybe never deliberate. I think that's weird that they even told them that. And obviously, each state does things differently. I've served under a jury before. One time I was on the jury. Another time I was an alternate, and I was told in the beginning I was an alternate. So, being an alternate, not fun. In some states, they pick the alternates randomly at the end, and they do that because if you're an alternate, it's just kind of, even though you're told you have to pay attention, some people don't pay attention. So I think it's better if they select them at the end or don't tell them which ones are alternates. I just think it's better that way. So I think that's the way they should be doing it. Let's see. And I wrote down some notes about the jurors in the box, just my take on their age, possible ages, characteristics, things like that. So I've got my little thing right here. It's kind of funny. I do that for trials. A lot of people do, a lot of reporters do. So this is a really funny moment I want to tell you about. This was really funny. So one of the alternates got into the chair after one of the other alternates, prospective alternates, was excused. So it's a guy. At first, all of the alternates in the chairs were women, all women. Then this guy gets up there, and it was hilarious because he said, are you, Angie Kneppa's like, are you related to anybody in the room or any of the jurors? And he's like, actually, yeah. And he points up to this woman who's in the box, and she's like, yeah, we're related. And it was kind of funny because the juror, Angie Kneppa, was like, well, how are you guys related? So he starts explaining. And I was trying to write my notes because it was like, he was explaining this relationship. And he said something like, great aunt was married to so-and-so, married to whoever. And then the woman stepped in and said, no, your grandfather and my mother-in-law were related this way. And it was just really funny. And everybody kind of laughed, or everybody was kind of like, oh, kind of a little bit of a chuckle. And then this juror and the prospective juror in the gallery, like out where we were sitting, he's like, that's Pike County for you. And everybody just laughed. The judge laughed, Angie Kneppa laughed, everybody laughed because it was so funny. Because I remember when I first started coming out here to cover this case, I was told everybody out there knows each other or is somehow related to each other. It's very, it's a small county, it's a small community. So there are all these people who are like related somehow. And it's like everybody just knows everybody and everybody's related to somebody somehow. So that was kind of a prime example of what I was told when I first started coming out here back in 2016. So they made a joke about it in court. So it was actually pretty funny. Just one of those moments. So here we go. The jury will be back at 9 a.m. on Wednesday. And they were told by Judge Deering that they're going to be taken to nine or so locations. They're splitting this up over Wednesday and Thursday. So for 2 days, the first 2 days, the jurors will be going to visits of the 4 crime scenes. They will be taken to the Flying W farm and directed to look at certain places there, including a large pond. We know, and I know just from being out there, that they've searched that Flying W farm, I don't know how many times, like a lot. And there was a really big pond out there and other bodies of water. And I was actually out there one time when they were doing a search warrant, and I ran into divers on the road. And they were all suited up in their dive gear, and they had a metal detector. They had other stuff. I'm going to go back and find the pictures, but they were searching a pond, and they were searching other, I guess there are other bodies of water out there, and actually saw them out there with like the metal detector and stuff like that. So they're going to be told to look at certain things. So they're going to Flying W, the 4 crime scenes. They're going to the property on Bethel Hill Road where Billy and Angela and George, his ex-wife, and Jake all lived at one point in time before they moved to Peterson Road, the Peterson Road property. The jurors will also be taken to the Peterson Road property, which was searched starting in May of 2017. Law enforcement found shell casings out there, and that's how they were able to determine apparently which gun was used to commit some of the murders, because I think there were 2 different firearms used in the homicides, from what I understand. Judge Deering told the jurors, don't wear open-toed shoes, no open-toed shoes, because you're going to be walking around and you're going to be told to look at certain things. Dress appropriately, Judge Deering said. You will be outside, you will be doing walking. Don't wear anything that you would wear to a party. So he said, dress comfortably like you're going to be outside. Don't dress nice tromping around wherever they take them. So we don't know which places they're taking them first, but we do know they'll be taking them to several locations. They're also going to be taken to the property owned by the Pike County Sheriff's Office, where the rodents, trailers, and campers are stored. So they'll be seeing the trailers. If you remember back when we started covering this story, about a month after the homicides, the trailers were basically put on truck beds and driven away and put in storage to preserve the crime scenes. So those trailers haven't been outdoors in more than 6 years. One of the jurors asked about taking notes, and the judge is like, we're going to have to talk about that, how that's going to work. But they were told they can't take notes tomorrow, and they were told they can't bring their cell phones either. I must say, when the rest of the jurors were told, you can leave, you're excused, like 2 of them were like started clapping. So that was really hilarious. There's a little courtroom color for you. So there you have it. The jurors will be going to what they call the jury view tomorrow. I'm trying to think, along with the 4 crime scenes, the Peterson Road location, Bethel Hill Road, Flying W, the trailers, they're also going to be shown a pickup truck at the Pike County Sheriff's Office. And I believe that's the vehicle that Jake told them the family purchased to carry out the homicides. So there you have it. I'll be back at the courthouse in the morning. We are asking to go along. We are being told no at this point, but we're hoping that changes. So I'll be at the courthouse bright and early tomorrow morning. Do you guys have any questions? I'll look at the chat because my Zoom window hasn't shut down recently. Any questions about anything that happened today? Oh, and George has said he's waived his right to go along on the jury view, so he won't be going. If you put your questions in the chat, I'll do my best to answer them. And then I have to get off here because I have to basically get ready for bed and do some work. So Lindsay's asking, will the jurors know the details about each property they go to? So the bailiff will, and I guess if it's agreed upon by the attorneys, they'll point out certain places they need to look. I don't think they're going to be told, I don't know yet. I don't think they'll be told the exact significance of each location. Maybe they will be, maybe they'll be told this is where, one of the crime scenes, or this is that. But I think the reason they're doing this, taking them to these places first, is so when they hear opening statements, they'll be able to kind of put things together. Like they'll say, oh, well, that's where that person lived, or that's where that person lived, or the Flying W, this is where they searched for evidence. The Peterson Road home, that's why they searched there, and this is what it looked like. So they'll be pointing to different points of interest at each location. The bailiff will kind of point it out to them. And if it's agreed upon by the lawyers, and I assume the judge will be going too, because I've been on these before where the judge also goes. And when I say been on them, I mean, I've covered stories where we've gone along and the judge has gone along as well with the attorneys. We're working on that, Luke. So far, we're being told no, but we are hopeful that changes in the morning. We're we're going to be talking with the judge in the morning about that. So we don't want to, we can do these things. We can go with a camera and not take video of jurors. We've done that many times. Like I've been on these before with a camera, and we don't show the jurors. You just don't show them. It's not like you're next to them when it's happening. Like you're wherever you're, sometimes they block off roads and stuff like that. So we're media, so we can go where the public can go. So we'll be like nearby or whatever, wherever, it's not like we're going to be walking like 2 feet away from the jurors doing this if it's determined we're allowed to go. Oh, they're also going to be going to this, I forgot one of the locations to tell you guys about, and I was there when this happened. It's on my Facebook page, actually. Maybe I'll put this in the chat really fast. Hold on, let me try to find it. But back in May of 2017, when we first found out that the Wagners, because the Wagners had sold the Peterson Road property, back when the police were out there searching, and it was like the Department of Corrections, other people were out there helping with the investigation. There was another location they were searching, and we got wind of it. So we raced out there, and it was this property on US 41. And it was apparently somebody that Jake and George had worked for at one point in time. And they had asked these people like, hey, we just sold our house and we're going to move to Alaska. Can we store our belongings on your property? And I guess these people were like, yeah, that's fine. So there were these truck trailers or whatever you would call it. And you know, the police were going through all of this stuff. And I think I remember there were even kids' toys like hanging out of part of it. Because, you know, obviously Jake got custody of the daughter he shared with Hannah Roden. So the child, you know, the little girl was living with them at the time, as was George Wagner's son. And I don't use the child's name like in my reporting that much. I have, and I do sometimes, but think about it. She was, I think, 4 at the time that this happened, maybe 3, something. So this child is now 9 or 10 years old. And kids get on the internet. I mean, I don't know how much this child is on the internet, but I don't know if you just don't know what these children have learned about what happened. And I certainly don't want to be the person breaking that to them or have them think, oh, my name is that's my name. I wonder, you know, I mean, this child's name is, you know, her name, Wagner is her last name. So she knows her name unless it's been legally changed. We don't know. They used to call her Spuds. I know that. So I just try to be very careful because these children have been through enough. They don't need to be re-traumatized. So anyway, I remember being out there. I was going to look for this to show it to you when they were searching this property where the belongings were stored in these truck trailer looking things. And I think that I'm pretty sure that's where they found the custody documents. They either found the custody, and I'm having trouble remembering because obviously, you know, you learn a lot reading court documents and you learn a lot, you know, reading court records, following the case, listening to all the hearings. But I feel like they found the custody documents in a storage container, either at that property on US 41 or whatever it is, or at the Bethel Hill Road location. I'm trying to remember. I'll have to look that up. I used to know that right off the top of my head. I'm going to search and try to find that video that I took back then of that May 2017 search. Here, I'm going to put this in the chat. This is my Facebook Live from that, one of my Facebook Lives from that day. Look, it's so old. I mean, it's 6 years ago. Oh, here's one of the videos. Here's one of the videos of the search of the Flying W back in November of 2019. I'll put that in here too. Let me look for some other stuff here. I remember specifically I took, sometimes it's hard for me to find some of this video and stuff that I shot with my phone. I'm always taking pictures and stuff with my phone. Oh, here's the metal detector picture. This is pretty cool. When I was out there and at the Flying W and these divers, whatever they were searching with the metal detector. Let me look. I'm still finding stuff, guys. So I'm in my hotel and there's like a big, must be a train nearby. Sorry guys, I'm trying to pull up this other thing. I'm having some internet issues because I'm on hotel Wi-Fi. Can you hear that train? I'm still looking for that stuff, guys. Here, let me, here, this picture is pretty cool too. Like I literally, I remember my photographer Ed and I were driving down the road and I was like, oh my God, stop, there's people. Like, so I jumped out of the car and ran. I literally ran. I had these boots on that I love. And it was like, I mean, I was running in these boots and it was wet outside and I was getting soaking wet just because I wanted to get a picture of them before they went back to the farm. That's another cool picture. Let's see. Still looking, guys. It just takes a while to scroll through this stuff. Okay, apparently I'm not. Oh, here it is. Okay. Oh, I found it. This is so great. So here, this is where their belongings were stored. This is a pretty good picture. Here's a code. So that's just a picture I took. I wish I had the iPhone I had now back then. I don't know how to describe it. It almost looks like you know what it looks like? It looks like they're horse trailers, or what I would think would be like a trailer for transporting animals. And this is where their belongings were stored. And if you guys look at that last picture that I just put in the chat, the cops were like, and the agents, they were literally pulling stuff out of there. Like there were kids' toys and stuff. I remember that. And they were pulling stuff out of there and putting it all over the grass and looking through all of it. You see the BCI crime scene units there. There's also a video. Sometimes I can share this stuff and sometimes I can't. It's really weird. This video, like this is where some of the BCI. Luke, I think that some of them will, or they could possibly go in the homes. I'm assuming because I mean these things have already, these trailers were processed years ago, obviously before they were even moved. The crime scenes were processed, and I would assume that the agents and whomever only went back into them if they had to find other stuff. Like if they had to look for other things after getting information. So I look at these pictures, I'm like, why didn't I take better pictures? So I think that would be the only reason they would have gone in there. Yeah. So there you have it. Yeah. There was also this, you should see this one. I did a Facebook Live from, I did a Facebook Live from the Peterson Road search on May 12th, 2017. Let's look for that. Road. like so much stuff comes up when I put in rodent. It's just hard to find it all sometimes because I have to scroll through years and years of stuff. It was interesting too, because a lot of people knew the witnesses. A lot of the witnesses like, oh, I've heard that name, or I know that name, or I know that person. So, you know, it's, as I've said, it's a small county. A lot of people know one another. Still scrolling through, guys, trying to find that Facebook Live. It was pretty cool. I looked at it the other night. It's not like amazing or anything, but I just remember we were having a problem getting our signal tuned in for the live truck or something. Something was going wrong. And we I did a Facebook Live to tell people where we were and why we were there. And I was just like, yeah, we're at this property and they're you know, they're searching it. And then later in the day, I found out why they were searching it and who the people were. You know, I did like a record search or what have you. And figured out the connection. Still looking, guys. Oh, I went too far. Some of the stuff's not. Date, how about we do date posted? Oh, 2017. Let's do that. That might make things a little easier. Or not. Okay, so I should probably get off here. I just thought I should get on here and now I'm having trouble finding this thing. I was really hoping to find it quite quickly for you. I just saw it the other day. I don't know why it's not coming up. Do you guys have any more questions? Let me look really quickly. Oh, here, I'll search here. Maybe this will be more helpful. It's so weird. I search for stuff and then stuff comes up. I'm like, but I didn't even, there's nothing to do with what I just searched. It's amazing to me how long I've been posting on Facebook. Oh, here it is. This is kind of funny. Here it is. I found it finally. Here's the Facebook Live. There you go. So there you have it. I will let you guys know what happens tomorrow. I'll be tweeting at Anjanette5. I know a lot of you follow me on Twitter. Amelia, I haven't been doing as much on Facebook lately, but if you want to, I'll do my best to post on Facebook. It's just Twitter's so much easier at times. But I'm going to get off here, guys. I hope you have a great night. I'll keep you posted in the morning about whether or not we're allowed to go. And we'll go from there. So I hope that everybody has a good night. If you have questions, I'll try to update you tomorrow if I can. And yeah, there you have it. Talk later. Bye.